All right, so now it's going to be recording. We're going to open up it to everybody, and then I'll do the welcome, and then we'll let you guys go for it.
Sounds good.
Recording in progress.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Father John Pedigo. I'm the Director for Advocacy Community Engagement in Catholic Charities. I want to welcome each and every one of you to our monthly conversation on race equity. And we have I'm going to turn it over to our Director Producer, Ms. Junie Butler, who will introduce our panelists and will lead us into the our opening session with whatever she's gonna what we have in the beginning. So a number of individuals here in Silicon Valley, and we are throughout the county, and we are very excited that we all can learn from the folks that are on this call. So Ms. Junie.
Thank you, Father John, and thank all of you, and welcome to our program today. We really appreciate your time and your efforts to join us out of your busy schedule to join us and be a part of this program. Today, we're going to be talking about moving forward from the midterms. Last month, we spoke about our panel discussed election 22, what's at stake for Black and Brown communities. To begin our program, we will start with our Black National Anthem from PS 316. Riley, can you help us, please? Thank you.
I don't think it's coming through. Here it goes. I don't think it's going to work this time.
Riley, do you have it?
Let me try one more time. My apologies.
Like if you just click play, it would go.
Yeah, I think why don't we better move on. I think we're gonna lose our time here.
Hey, this
Okay.
is Tony Alexander. I'm on now. Sorry I'm late.
All right, we'll move on. Hopefully we can come back. It was public schools 316 out in New York with beautiful little children singing our Black National Anthem. So again, we're delighted to welcome you. November is a very special month. There's so many events that take place in November. We remember sometimes it's mostly for Thanksgiving and Veterans Day. There are also two Christian holidays, All Saints Day, All Souls Day, fall within early November, and then Advent begins at the end of the month. November is also known as National Native American Heritage Month. And we as Black Catholics know that November is our National Black Catholic History Month. This History Month was by the National Black Catholic Clergy Caucus of the United States that met in 1990 and designated November as our Black Catholic History Month. In Black Catholic churches, every Sunday in November, the homilies remind us of our Catholics and our significant and historical contributions to the church. November also is significant for two other events. One, this year was the election 22 midterms. And of course, Veterans Day, which was November 11th, which remembered and honored those who gave their lives for our country. And now I ask you, there's another really significant day, November 11th. Can anybody guess what that day was? If not, I will tell you. November 11th was Marvel Cinematic Universe release of the Black Panther movie, Wakanda Forever, right? Are we all in agreement on that?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, let's move on. Today, we welcome our distinguished panel of San Jose community leaders. Minister Virginia Roberts, Ms. Carmen Bramer, Reverend Reginald Swilly, Reverend Jethro Moore, and Mr. Tony Alexander. We will let them then introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about themselves, as much as they want to tell us about themselves, because they have made significant contributions to our community in San Jose. We'll start out with Reverend Swilly. Thank you, Reverend Swilly.
Thank you, and good morning to everyone. This is a very important subject for us. I find myself thinking back to when I was a kid, the work that we have done. I was raised in Jim Crow South. I moved out to California when I was a young man and started raising a bunch of children. But all the time we were working for equality. I got ordained, and my ministry as associate pastor at Maranatha really focuses on the community health, building a community that's strong, that's represented, that's protected. So the work that I've done as co-chair of BLKC, and my business where I'm sitting right now is Minority Business Consortium. Our work is to get minority businesses and women on major contracts, and the economic benefits to our community and the stability of the community. I think it works throughout every aspect of my life, is the work that I've been doing, whether it's for business, whether it's in the community, and whether it's spiritual guidance. And I think it's a worthy conversation to have around what these elections mean to the African-American community. And thanks for inviting me.
Minister Virginia.
Good morning, everyone. I'm just so grateful to be asked to be a participant on this panel. I have been a resident of San Jose since 1970, where I came to go to school at San Jose State. I graduated with a degree, a double major in Black Studies and in Business Administration. After working for a short time for the university, I became an educator. And after 40 years, I retired from the Alum Rock School District, which is on the east side of San Jose. I've been a resident of the east side for the entire time that I've lived here. I currently serve as an associate minister of the Emmanuel Baptist Church, where Reverend Jason Reynolds is our pastor, located on the east side of San Jose, and also a predominantly African-American church. I serve as the social justice ministry. My responsibility is to be able to inform our congregation, social justice issues, and in civic engagement. Under those auspices, I have participated with PAC, People Acting in Community Together, the NAACP, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Black Leadership Kitchen Cabinet, and other organizations in order to inform our congregation so that they may be intelligent and informed voters and citizens of our county.
Thank you, Minister Virginia. Let's see, Reverend Moore.
Okay, hello. Well, almost 160 years ago, ratified in 1865, the 13th Amendment stated, "Now the slave of our voluntary servitude, except as punishment for crime, worth of the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction." I'm just so glad to see that over this past midterm election, 5 states brought it to their constitution to remove the word indentured slave from their constitution. 4 of them got passed. There are still 19 states that still have slavery in their constitution, as well as it's still a federal law. And I just want to make sure everyone knows California is one of those 19 states that still consider slavery, prisoners and people who are in prison slaves. So I would urge us to continue to push California legislature to bring it back to the floor and to get that terminology of free labor, induced labor taken away from our Constitution, and as we push on federally. Yes, I'm Reverend Moore. I'm currently working with the Vallejo Police Department as a community program manager. I'm located in what's called the Crest, which is one of Vallejo's hotspots, in which we're doing our best to find alternative responses to police, setting up community service, mental health response, study homework centers, and other work that will be working with churches, with the Levin Center, and impact ministries to reduce crime, hotspots, and alternative sentencing for youth. Also currently work with the California Resiliency Challenge, in which we were working to get money into communities to help with flooding and other issues of low-income neighborhoods affected by drought and climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Moore. Ms. Bramer?
Hi, I'm Carmen Brammer, and I have been San Jose has actually been my home for almost 40 years. I have a daughter that I've raised here, and I'm also engaged in political strategy and community advocacy. I have been a member of the Black Leadership Kitchen Cabinet for almost going on 4 years now. And I've also been working with other nonprofits and community-based organizations. I had the honor this year of being awarded Advocate of the Year by the African American Community Service Agency, and also got a recognition for the county. So I'm very honored and excited to be here.
Thank you, Ms. Bramer. We'll have Mr. Tony Alexander. Welcome, Mr. Alexander.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tony Alexander. I just kind of hang out here in the community. I'm born and raised here. Currently serve as a trustee on the San Jose Evergreen Community College Board, past president of NAACP, participate in the Black Leadership Kitchen Cabinet, and also a member of Antioch Baptist Church, where I am the Social Action Committee Chair. And so when we do voter registration, we have our community activists come there. We participate. Antioch does with social justice work, working with PACT, working with also the unions with social justice regarding work. We did a number of things with hotel workers. A number of years ago, we had Danny Glover and Dolores Huerta at our church. We've had Jesse Jackson at our church. We've had a number of folks at our church to go out there and make sure that we participate in elections, and we always want to make sure that we get folks out. One of the things that I'm really keen on is right now is making sure we get more Black elected officials in our area here, working with as many candidates as we can, make that happen. And I'm gonna tell you, it's not easy, but we need to go out there and to do that, and we need to make sure that we continue to register to vote and have our people run for office. So thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to move on. I have a question for the panelists, and what we're going to do is that just feel free, either panelist, to just jump in. I don't have to designate you to speak. So what's my question is, moving forward after the midterms, how do you see that? What do you see? What do you see for Black and Brown communities? Please feel free to just join in so that all of our panelists have an opportunity to express their views. Thank you.
Well, I was going to tell you, I'll start off. Continue to vote, continue to help us run for office. We had Milan Ballantyne run this time. We've had a number of other candidates that run. We have to make sure that we believe in them, and we make sure that they get out there and participate, because without people of color in positions that makes decisions, okay, we're in trouble. I can tell you, as a person that works on a community, on a board in closed session, that's where some things happen. And none of y'all know about what goes on in closed session because we're not allowed to talk about that. But I can tell you is that if you don't have a face like mine, in there, a lot of times it's not gonna work out. Okay, we have to make sure that we're represented, and that's one of the key things that I think that after this election we're getting there, but we still need to go out there and do more. So thank you.
You know, Tony, I think there's a few things that we need to be conscious of. We need too many of our young people, I think, feel like it's useless to vote because one vote in a million votes, you're like, who am I? But the power of all of these elections all across the country. Listen, I've been despondent over the last few weeks thinking about that all the work that we've done to try to develop democracy as a whole has been going down the drain because too many of our white brothers and sisters are not committed to democracy. Now, we've never had democracy. We've been fighting all the time from slavery through Jim Crow, through all the stuff through the 60s, and even today, we are challenged. Reverend Mo's work up in Vallejo. We are always challenging the system to better represent and to better serve us. We pay our taxes. We haven't asked anybody to pay us back yet. I mean, we talk about reparation, but we are trying to get just even. And the challenge with our young people and many people throughout this country is that there are too many people not voting. And most of the conversations we have with young white folks, with young Black folks, with young brown folks, they have the same conversation the African-American community had. They see injustices and they are upset by it. But we have not found a way to push that button and say, if you guys go out en masse, you can make it better. Colleges all over the world is free. We have to pay, right? Healthcare all over the world is free. They use us to figure out how to make a profit, to make $1 billion off you getting sick. They're glad for you to be sick. And so there's a spiritual movement, I think, that needs to happen, that we need to own the democracy. Ben Franklin's statement, you know, and when they asked, what happened? They said, well, we came up with a democracy if we can keep it. I thought it was gone this election. I thought it was gone. They're stopping us from voting. They're making it armed people standing around voting polls. And it's just not because it happened in Georgia. The fact that it happened in Georgia and we saw it, it affects us here in San Jose. And a lot of people don't go to the polls, and the people in power with economic power, with old political power, they always maintain stuff. And it's just like the old slave owners, right? The plantation leaders, the plantation heads, they end up with the power that's out of balance. And I think that's something that we need to continue to work for going forward.
Can I just add something? I think we as a community have to deal with some true facts that we need to look at. I don't know who everybody voted for, but Cindy Chavez, it does look like it's coming out good right now. But you also look at the turnout on the east side was less than 50%, down by 43% turnout from the east side. See, they won that District 10, District 6, and District 3 overwhelmingly voted the other way. And what we have here, which we do not talk about openly, is not only a class separation, meaning those that have versus the working class citizens of Santa Clara County. It's a money thing, and it comes down to a color thing. And so we as people of color and Black people, speaking from that perspective, must do a better job and to gathering our people on the east side and getting them to the polls. And that means taking them to give them rides, other means to get those people out to the polls. And that's something I think an east side strategy that needs to be developed, that we can make sure that we have the proper responses from our east side residents. Thank you.
So if you don't mind, I'll jump in here real quick too. So this midterms, I was very, very nervous, feeling not sure which way the country was going to go. So I'm going to take it from a high and then I'll bring it down to the local level. So at a federal level, it made me feel a little better. I'm still not quite feeling great about it, but at least I felt better that many of the races that I thought, oh my goodness, they could swing based on everyone saying there was going to be a red tsunami. It didn't happen. So that was such a relief. I'll just say that I'm relieved. I don't know if I feel hopeful, but definitely relieved that we didn't, because that was a huge concern. And at a local level, we saw racism play out in our races right up to the end. And that was disheartening. That was not shocking, because as I look at our voting, so when you look at how many people are registered to vote, we generally have more Democrats than Republicans, yet we continue to be an area that's relatively conservative. So to the point that both Jeff has made and Reginald has made, we do need to get our people more educated about voting. And I'm excited to say, and Minister Virginia was part of this too, is that we actually did start a coalition. It came to in September. We formed a coalition with PAC, with Latinas for Latina women of Silicon Valley, and BLKC to Asian Women Empowered, to bring us together to really start making voting be a part of the DNA of this community. And not just in election years, but also in the off years, and use those off years, to the point that Tony was saying, use those off years to really educate people and get folks engaged in this process, and start to make voting something that folks want to be engaged in and understand. Because when you look at the numbers, the separation between the candidates is very minimal. It's thousands of votes or hundreds of votes. So that lets you know the value of your vote. It is critical that we all go out and vote. And I'm not picking any party, but just everyone going out and vote is a way to really get messaging across to those in power that we really value this gift, this blessing of voting that we have, and we're going to exercise it, because it really is a superpower that we have. And we need to really latch onto that and say, this is our superpower. We're not going to let anyone else take it away from us. And we're going to use it to let you know we don't like certain things and we want change. And I'm encouraged. I truly am encouraged. I'm excited to say the registrar of voters worked with us, and they were really, really wonderful to work with. So there's opportunity here for us to take this thing to the next level. And it's great to hear all of us saying that. And hopefully, as we move forward, I'll get these folks who are on this call more engaged in this voting coalition that we've set up, so that we can have people reaching out to community. Because at the end of the day, it's getting to the community and making them feel that there's trust, that they can trust that we're not just doing this as a flash in the pan, but that we truly, truly mean that we want this community to be reflected in our electoral system. So that's where I stand. But I am feeling a little better. But again, I did not like the racism that occurred here. And that has to be addressed. That must be addressed. And we continue to somewhat put that to the side because we don't want to talk about it because it's not comfortable. But this, we have to get to a point where we talk about this and bring it forth. And I'm one of those folks who I'm ready for that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Reverend Virginia, Minister Virginia.
Yes, I agree with everyone's comments. One of the things that I've seen over the past few years is that it is about relationship. It is about establishing a relationship. And I hear you, Carmen. It's not just about a transactional thing such as voting when it is voting time, where they see your face in the community, but you need to become a part of the community. I'm talking about the electeds, becoming a part of the community, not just coming around when it's your turn to be voted, your time for re-election. The community should know who you are. You should be like, back in the day, we had the school, we had liaisons, we had school liaisons that became a part of, they were a part of the community, and that helped the participants, the residents in that community with everything, with how to navigate through the system, they help them with voting. But okay, some of those positions have been, fallen by the wayside, but there are a whole bunch of people, especially people of color, working in local government in all these different auspices. But Do you see them all the time in the community? I dare say not. Leveraging our power is extremely important. We ain't but a few percentage, we're only like 3% of the population, so we ain't got time for division. But to look at the strengths and to take advantage of the strengths of the Reginald with the businesses, Jeff with dealing with those public officials and knowing what's happening in City Hall, Carmen that's dealing with on a community level, Tony that's dealing with unions and knowing everything about everything, Catholic Charities that is dealing with specific needs. Everything should include a participant, an element of civic engagement. So Catholic Charities should have an element of civic engagement, all the direct services, everything, all of our groups, all of our organizations should have that. With Reverend Moore and dealing with Armaline that keeps you abreast of all of the important things that happen, that are happening with our electeds. So I think it's a consolidation. It's a consolidation of all that we bring to the table is what's necessary for us to go forward and to be successful, because 2024 is coming and we ain't got time to be tripping. It's time to be united.
Great comments, great commentary from everybody. I did see Rosalia's hand up. Rosalia, you had a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you so much, Emil. And I didn't want to cut the conversation in the middle, but I had an observation that I got from one event that we had at Educare with the two candidates for the mayoral race here in San Jose. And I got the sense that I think the candidates, not just because they're Latino, because they're minorities, I think they get the sense that they're people from their own culture are going to vote for them and they forget to connect with the community. So I noticed when they came to Santee neighborhood, before the forum, everybody was for one candidate, right? But then that day, that candidate came and showed a personality of celebrity. They took that candidate out through the back door, and in the other hand, the other candidate stayed, shake hands, talk to everybody, and ask for their names, talk to the kids, to the older adults. I noticed that person went straight forward to the older adults, because everybody knows that if you want to influence a community, you have to go for the older adults, right? Because they are the power in the community. And at the end of the forum, the next day, all the comments that I got from the community was, I changed my mind. I think this person is different to what I expected. So I think some of the biggest issues that I see with our candidates is that they think that they need to work in a specific community, but if they go to a Latino community or they go to a minority community, they feel that they already have the vote for that community. But in reality, it's, no, you need to make that community special. So I think it's so much work that we need to do. And I think the candidates also need to understand that just because you're Latino, the Latino community is not going to work for you just because of that.
Thank you, Rosalia.
Rosalina, I think that is being able to campaign correctly and to show the proper respect for communities is a major piece of how you get elected. But I think that we as community leaders, we need to see further than that, because we are not banking our families and our community's future based on the celebrity or the whims of the person that's being elected. We have to see what are their policies, how have they served in the past, because there are some good looking, slick people can walk in and tell you all, they can walk in like a pimp with the biggest hat and the biggest car and make everybody smile and end up taking everything that you have. We have, it's important to know who people are and what they have done. This is a servant job. We are not hiring people politically to be our bosses. we are asking them to serve our community in a way, and most of the people that you have on this panel are servants. They understand serving. You don't do this for yourself. You do this for other people. And I think we are forgetting that. I think many of the politicians or the business community for sure, they have seduced all the politicians into thinking that their job is to help business. Listen, a good businessman needs good rules and he can make some money. A bad businessman, if you help him, he's going to make money, but he will fleece your community. He will use your community as cannon fodder for him to get rich off of. You do not want those kind of people who think they're supposed to serve the businesses rather than those people that want to serve the community. And that has been a challenge for the last 30 years, I think. Every politician come up and says, oh, I'm going to help business. Business don't need help. Your community need to keep from getting poisoned water. We need to make sure that we have a safe and the facilities are good and acceptable for us because we're paying a whole bunch of taxes. And that's how we need to shift our community's vision away from who's the cutest, who's the flashiest, who's got the most pizzazz, to who is going to serve us and how will my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren be served by the directions that they are sending our community.
So it's Carmen, if you don't mind. So one of the things I'd like to make sure that we as community, people who continue to live here, remember is that our elected officials are employees of ours. We are their employer. And we think about your job. Your employer holds you accountable to doing what you sign up to do. And we as community have to start doing that much more diligently than we have in the past. And I'm just as guilty. I was like, oh, they were way above me. I can't really tell them things. And then I came to the to the realization, hey, wait a minute. No, you guys work for us. You have to do and listen to us. And to the point that Reggie just made is the fact that too often, many of the elected folks who are elected or running for candidacy will use business as the buzzword. I think for me, I find it a word that they use to emote emotion and fear. And so they use business as a way of saying that business has done such a great job of helping this world. And the reality is businesses aren't in business without people buying their products or their services. So again, we have to remember we've got power, and it's important and critical that we utilize that power and hold folks accountable with that power that we have.
I have a question from the chat here. It says, given that our panelists are clergy or are connected to the faith communities, can you all remark on the rise and role of white Christian nationalism in politics? What is the role of HBCUs in pushing back against their white evangelical counterparts?
Man, you don't want me to start there, Jeff.
Oh, yes, we do.
Listen, I am ashamed. I'm just going to say it straight up. I am ashamed of what they have been doing. I have said many times in speeches and preaching, like, they don't get to be the Bible Belt to me. They don't understand grace. They don't understand love. They don't understand hospitality. There's stuff throughout the Christian scriptures that there is no, this Christian nationalism is just like the Ku Klux Klan. When they were hanging people in the 30s and 40s and the 20s, they had the biggest Bible you can have standing under the tree, and all the preachers and everybody left church to go up. So there is no, they get no cover from me for hiding behind Christianity. I think many people in America feel that Christianity is white. And I think that they have harmed the African-American community, because I understand the spiritual depth of what Christianity is about. And if I had to look at them to find out about Christianity, there is no way I would be associated with it. But it is a bastardization of what I think Christianity is supposed to be. They have already bastardized, I think, what democracy is supposed to be. And at every turn, I think we need to figure out a way to challenge them. I think there needs to be some conversations in the Christian community, just like this, about what does it mean? And who is your brother? And what do you exist for? Do you exist for yourself, or is this another part of this hustle mentality that we go out and get ours for our side? I had a conversation with some spiritual people, and I made this statement. I said, if you were more afraid of your children running into the police than you were of them running into a criminal, that your biggest fear for your child's safety out in the world was the police and not a criminal. I said, if that was your fear, you would fire the whole police department, because you would not be sitting up at home worried if the police gonna shoot your child. They looked at me and they said, yes. And I said, your statement, yes, just proves that my children is not your children. I said, they should be all of our children. You should be just as upset as I am. Because if they was killing little white boys just because they're walking down the street with a black trench coat on, I would be speaking out against that as well. That is what it means to be a spiritual leader in a community. And I am challenged throughout this country for people claiming spiritual leadership. And I hope the African-American community never allow that spirit to be claimed as a spiritual leadership in this United States.
Thank you, Reverend Willie.
You pushed my button.
Oh, all right. Yeah, good comments. Good. Reverend Moore?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I believe there's a difference in the two. There's Christianity, then you have evangelical. We have to be really leery of who the evangelicals are and what they stand for. I would just like to recommend a couple of books, Jesus and the Disheartened, White Evangelical Racism, Christ and Crises, or even read some of James Cone's books. And we can understand from a long time, from a Black liberation theology perspective, we've been fighting against this white racism and teaching against it for the years. So this is who they are. This is who they've always been since they left Cape Coast and came over here. They've not changed who they were. They've only evolved. So we see the height of their involvement right now, and hopefully the downfall of evangelicals as a whole. That's why there's a lot of them. I'll name them: Tony Evans, whatever his name is, the one that smiles. A lot of the big name ones who have these huge churches in Texas, who when they flooded in Texas wouldn't even open up their churches. They were showing you they have no love. When a church shows it has no love, it already told you who they represent. So we as believers, as true believers, there's going to be a separation of us. And so we can't call them all out, but I don't fear evangelicals. I think we need to call them out. And we have several evangelical churches here in this valley that practice, I say, institutional racism. And this will no longer be the land of liars. And there's no longer be the land of liars and election deniers. We have to look at another way to challenge them, not so much physically, but spiritually. And that means we got to meet them where they are. And I just want to end with this is right now, for me, there's a silencing of Black voices. And if you're not really paying attention, the coach for the Celtics, whatever happened in that relationship, he's been punished and put on hold for 1 whole year. Regardless of where you come out from Kanye West or Kyrie, they're being punished above all else. So if you read some of James Baldwin and his disciples, or his understanding of not just the Jewish community, oh, we can't say that word because everybody's going to roll up in a ball and get shut off according to what's going on now, right? So we see, and currently you'll see Ice-T is being censored for his participation on Saturday Night Live. So you see Black voices everywhere that stands up against anything white nationalism. We're going to be shut down. So I'm ready to be shut down. I'll accept being shut down, because there'll be another avenue I'll squeeze out of. They can't shut me down. And as they cut off more and more Black voices, more and more Black people will speak out across this nation. I am so inspired. I don't agree with Kanye. I think he needs a little help. But for somebody taking a poster and posting something about H2N on their website and not saying a word about it, and then censor him, and this country is not being upset, or even Dave Chappelle, and I'm going to challenge all of you, because Dave Chappelle will be here in a few weeks. And if Netflix and their friends want to show up at Netflix at that concert to put out a protest, I will be there, and I challenge you to come out with me, because comedy has always been what gets us through and changes the situation. And if you're going to let them attack these artists and the Black community here in this valley, I wasn't here when Netflix marched out. I wish I would have been here, because I'd have marched right down to the headquarters and told Netflix some things. But as a Black man, and I'm not gay, but I understand the gay movement started by Marsha P. Hicks at the Stonewall riots, and we can say whatever we damn well want to say about that situation. Don't censor us, because that's what we're going to see the best of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Moore. There's a comment in the chat. It says, Reverend Warnock is shunned by white evangelists, yet Herschel Walker gets a free pass. That was by a quote by Tony Robbins. Anyone want to comment on that?
Well, I've had my hand up.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
I think Jamal has had his hand up too.
Where's Jamal? I don't see Jamal.
I have,
Go ahead.
but if you were going to comment, mine was back a while ago, so
Okay.
I don't want.
Okay.
I can put it down.
Thank you. I don't see the whole screen. Sorry. Go ahead, carry on.
Okay. In terms of white Christian, so-called Christian nationalism, I think you need to look at the history of it and how that group came to be through Falwell back in the 60s as a reaction to the civil rights movement, because they did not want to integrate. And so they have used the Bible to justify racism, white supremacy. And that is what has fueled their rise into, and it also has just permeated the television, the televangelists. That's a lot of power and a lot of money. I know Brother Reginald can attest to that, because that is how they have leveraged power. That's a group, whether it's white nationalism, racism, or white supremacy, but they have learned how to leverage political power. And it's a screwed up, a jacked up philosophy, right? You know, but they have learned. So the history needs to be taught so that our people flock to those ministries. Lord have mercy. You know, using flawed biblical scholarship that is used to oppress is never right. I don't care what nobody say, whether it's against females, against the LGBTQ community, against Black folk. It is not meant to hurt. It's not meant to hurt, to harm people. So I think any extremist groups, any religious extremist groups, and that have learned how to leverage political power is dangerous. And we just need to be aware, and we need to study them and make that information known to our people.
Thank you, Minister Roberts. Jamal, go ahead. I see your hand. I didn't see your hand now. Please carry on. Jamal?
Yeah. I just wanted to come back to, I think Rose Leah's point around the candidates. And, I think what I heard Rose Leah saying was that in mass, people want to know that the candidate is connected to their community. And connection for a lot of people comes in many different ways. It can come through the work of the person, and it can also come through how that person shows up. And I think that we're looking at, Black and brown communities. We're thinking about, countering a kind of white nationalist, white supremacist narrative and voting structure and political structure. I do think we have to be honest about some of the candidates, some of the policies, some of the approaches that people have and take as we think about the shifting dynamic of our city, of our county, of our country. And I think that young people and communities of color are kind of taken for granted by Democrats. But I also think that young people and communities of color want specific things as we think about how to move towards progress. And so what we end up having, you know, to Rosalia's point and to kind of to Reginald's point too, is we end up having candidates who that we have to vote for that are very much center, right? And when we fight and we write letters and we speak as community members, as advocates, as community leaders, we're actually advocating for progress, right? But we have to settle with center. And I think the idea of getting more people motivated, we got to really look at shifting our approach to that. I think young people are asking for things that are very progressive. I think communities of color are looking for tangible solutions that they know will have an impact on their lives. Most of those come with progressive policy. And I think we end up getting center a lot. And I don't think that works for us to move forward. And I think that can hurt some of our candidates. And quick case in point, you know, no shame here. I voted for Cindy and I wanted Cindy Chavez to win. However, all the mailers I got from Cindy had how many more police were going to be in our streets. That's not speaking to me as a Black person, as a Black parent, as a Black community member. That's not what's speaking to me. And I think that wasn't meant to speak to me. And I think we have to really wrestle with that, because that to Reginald's point, if our young people, our young Black and brown people are saying we're afraid of the police, and we need something new, saying we're going to staff more police, isn't the message that we need to be sending when we're looking at progress. So I think there's some things that are missing here in this area.
Well, you know, if you don't mind, Rosalie, I'm a Black guy, and some of the Latino friends I have that live over there, just like in our community, I'll just say it the way it is. Part of the problem with this election cycle possibly could have been, and they talked about this in the Black Panther a little bit as well, is that we had a candidate in Cindy who everybody loved and knows Cindy's work and the history that she's done, but she doesn't speak Spanish. She's a white Latino married to a white guy. So the turnout for those Latinos who have that part, like we have in the Black community, they don't turn out sometimes, whatever the reasons were. Those are some of the things when we break it down, we're going to have to look at and how we could have gotten. Neither candidate was Spanish speaking, and they did not appeal to that Spanish crowd that is Spanish speaking that's registered to vote. So when we start putting those things into the equation, we can better understand why some of those voters didn't come out. And that's why I said originally, we need to look at what we have to do to make sure those voters are included in the dynamics and are more active in it, even if the candidate doesn't speak Spanish, that we have a way to reach out to them. And so that's just hanging out at a couple of the spots down there in San Jose with some of my people who are Latino, and just hearing them talk, as well as another problem we have growing in the Latino community, which is their right, is another percentage of them are going Republican. And we have to begin to understand why that's happening. And so those are some of the issues that we're not discussing, and those coloring issues that we run from. And so it's problematic because for the last 16 years, I think we've had a white male mayor or a male mayor from the other side of the tracks, and the East Side has been forgotten and pushed to the side far too often. And that's why I say from the East Side perspective, East Side till I die, we must come together and form the East Side Alliance and figure out how to get all of our people on one track so that we can make sure East Side is developed as well as Cupertino, as well as the other sides of town, that East Side of San Jose gets businesses and industry and not float us up with apartments and everything like that. So that's just mine, Rosalie, and I work whatever way I can with the Latino community to make sure those non-Spanish speaking or non-English speakers can understand a little bit better.
Thank you, Reverend Moore.
It's
Rosalina, your statement and Jamal's statement, you know, we are in a continuous situation. Excuse me, Carmen, were you about to speak? I'm sorry.
Yes, I was. So what I was going to say is I agree with a lot of what Jamal just said. And one of the things that he touched on, which was also something that hit me when I attended the forum that where Cindy and both Matt talked about adding more police to more money for the police, which goes so against the grain of what community is saying. And as I've gone to the various different, I went to 3 different in-person and virtual forums for the mayor, and each one had a different message based on the audience they were catering to. And that to me was not a good thing. I didn't like that kind of attitude, and I didn't like that type of behavior. One thing I was looking for, and I'm not a young person, I'm an old person, and I was discouraged. So I think we have to realize it's not just young folks that we have to excite and ignite. We also have a group of older folks who are like blasé about this stuff, because it's like same old. And how do we do that work? And that work is something that we must do as a community. One of the things I'm looking for, and I'm hoping that as we move forward in this down this path of getting folks more engaged, is saying to these people, when you come to a candidate forum, I don't want to hear the same old. I want you to hear, hey, we've got this problem of unhoused, and this is the program and policy I'm going to implement and work to institute to relieve that problem. Not telling me that you've done this in the past and you've done this here, and I want to know what you're going to do now. And I want a solid, tangible. I've asked that questions of both candidates in many of these forums. What are the tangible, solid, specific things you're going to do? And all I get is rhetoric. And that is a turnoff. And that impacts whether people are going to come to the polls or not. And so part of the work that we in community, it's upon us to help educate those folks by saying, hey, if they're not answering your questions and they're not giving you what you're looking for, let's go back to them and say, hey, your campaigns need to do some things differently because you're not appealing to these people, and really take into account what community is looking for. It just is not happening right now. And I do agree that many of these candidates, especially Democrats, they take Black folks, I'm gonna say it, they take us for granted. They think we're a shoo-in all the time. And that's one day that's gonna hurt them if they don't get their act together. They have to stop behaving like that, because I can admit, I'm tired of supporting a party that isn't doing a doggone thing for me. They give me the same old rhetoric, but don't do nothing. They go into office and they fall back on the old behaviors and old ways of doing things. So it's critical that we hold these, when they come to a forum, you got to answer these questions. If you don't, we're going to call you on it. So.
Thank you. We have a couple, obviously time started to run out here, but let's see, we're going to have for Tony and Reverend Moore.
Sure. Thank you. I'm just going to tell you guys, I'm a smack talker. Okay. I like to win. Okay. And that's what I do. And so when we're talking about these political races and stuff like that, one of the things I know that I did in 2020, this year I didn't have that many candidates. In 2020, I had 12 candidates and 10 out of the 12 won. And the reason why they won is because we did different messages of, first I asked them, I said, do you really want to win? And then I go, once I found out that they wanted to win, I said, here's the messaging that you have to go out there and do in each one of those communities. And some of the things that all y'all are talking about, that sounds nice, okay, but it doesn't win. And that's one of the things that we're going to have to start taking a look at. If you want to win, you're going to have to go out there and find people that are going to fight and do that. That's one. The other is that you're going to have to start talking about candidates. I'm an elected official, okay? Y'all want me to go ahead and go to every single meeting. I can't do that, okay? And neither can a lot of these other elected officials. But we have to have better surrogates that will go out there and work with us on some of the things that are happening. And so that's what we have to do. First, we got to want to make sure that we want to win, okay? And decide how we're going to go about doing it. And then put together the strategy to do it. I actually talked to a few people. I knew what was going to happen in this race for mayor, okay? Because our city is very conservative. And you look at the map and that's what happened. So people, yes, we have to get involved. We also have to decide that we want to go out there and win. And we're going to have to start growing our bench. We have no bench. Okay. We ran Milan. Okay. Milan might not make it, but let me tell you something. We're going to make sure that that brother gets in somewhere, okay? And some of these other folks, I put in the chat, all the Black elected officials that hardly anybody knows, okay? We got to get to know them. So thank you very much, and let's make it work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Reverend Moore, you have some final comments here. We're just almost running out of time here, so please.
Just want to tell everybody keep your heads up. This was a great election. You know, we won 4 seats. We won 4 secretaries of state so that they can't change the votes in the future going into the president's election. So we did great there. There were several Black women throughout the nation who won seats that are going to be representatives in the House of Congress in Philadelphia, Massachusetts. They did great jobs. And so even though Stacey Abrams might have lost, we know that 72% of white women did not show up to vote for her. So whatever that reason is, we'll have to work that out. And I want to tell you all this. I'm going to be getting on a jet plane and I'm going to be headed down to Georgia to help Warren Arthur win and take on Herschel Walker. So we got a team going down with some people I'm going to meet there, and we're going to hit the streets probably Sunday and Monday of next week. And we're going to be going to all the local. I'm going to go to where they don't like us to go. And I love going where the white people are real strong. I'm going right in his backyard to talk a bunch of smack. So hopefully if you guys have a chance, have any money, please send some money to support Warnock's election so we can try to swing this last seat. And I think we're still trying to figure out the last couple of votes. This election was great. We did not lose. America won. We have saved our democracy for 2 more years, but we have to continue to fight and continue, as Tony Alexander so fondly say, look for some more people that are willing to run. And we have to figure out, Tony, some type of way. I'm sorry for talking so much, but the young people who are coming into this community do not know this community. And we must teach them this community before they get picked off by the other people and pulled to the wrong side. I had one young person tell me he was voting for the other person, Matt Mahan, and I asked him why. He said he's good for business. I said, that's not what we need necessarily. Business is going to take care of themselves here. We need somebody that's going to take care of our community. But thank you for having me, and peace, everyone. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you all. Thank you all. As we wrap it up, thank you all for all your comments. You've made our program a total success, and there's lots to think about. Our next program is next in December. We'll be talking about the history and the origins of Kwanzaa. So, and I'm not sure it's going to be December 6th or the 13th, but we'll let you know. Thank you again for joining us. Father John, I'm back with you.
Thank you, Ms. Junier. I want to thank everybody and the panelists for, again, an amazing fast discussion. I think I learned more from y'all than I have learned on NPR and MSNBC, because I think this is really amazing that there's so much great nuance that we're hearing. So I want to thank everybody and the participants. Thank you, Junier, and on behalf of the agency, I want to thank all those who joined us and are joining us via Facebook. Thank you all very much, and we hope to see you next month when we, as Ms. Junier talked about, Kwanzaa. Thank you all very much. We'll see you all next month.
Thanks for having me.
And we're recording so you can listen later. God bless. Bye.
Thank you very much. God bless everyone.
Bye.